Hey Divas, happy Tuesday. Before we get started, can you please put a 1 in the chat and let me know that you can hear me? Do I sound clear? Let me know. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Please put a 1 in the chat and let me know that you can hear me. You can hear me. You can hear me. Okay, I see Daughter of Israel say that she can hear me. How are you doing? Happy Tuesday. Welcome to Pink Table Topics. I am your host and your good sis, Pink Diva. Thank you so much for joining me. As you're pulling your seat up to the table, don't forget to hit that like button for me. Feel free to drop down and leave a comment. And also make sure you're engaging in the topic. Turn those bell notifications on so that you'll be notified each and every time we drop a new topic. As you know, our mission is to create a safe space for women to gather as a community, engage in healthy dialogue regarding real life issues that we as women deal with on a daily basis, and most importantly, to foster the true meaning of sisterhood. And if you are here, that means you are subscribed and representing the Diva Tribe. But we're not just any divas. We are divine, inspiring, valiant, and admirable. Welcome to the table, divas. Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. How are y'all doing? You know, we have to start off with our motivational quote of the day. And today, our motivational quote is: every day may not be a good day, but there is something good in every day. Every day may not be a good day, but there is something good in every day. Awesome, awesome motivational quote. Let me go around the table and do my Divas roll call. You know how we do it. We want to make everyone feel special. Thank you so much for joining. My good sis, Daughter of Israel, is in the house. Hey, sis. Thanks for pulling up to the table. Teresa Wright is here. Thank you so much, sis. You know, I appreciate me some you. I have who else we have here? Let me scroll. Nashonda Fields. Hey sis, thank you so much for pulling up to the table. I really do appreciate you. My good sis, D. Herford is in the building. Thank you so much for pulling up to the table. I appreciate you. Miss Sugar Sweet. Hey sis, thank you so much for pulling up to the table. Teresa Rice says motivational quote: every day may not be a good day, but there is something good in every day. Absolutely, sis. Absolutely. Let me start by saying this. I really, really do appreciate each and every one of you for showing out and helping me reach my small term goal, which was reaching 500 subscribers. And you ladies really showed up for me. We are currently sitting at 555 subscribers. And as promised, I do have a raffle. So if you are in the bushes, make sure you drop down and engage in the topic, because you do not want to miss our raffle. We have a raffle prize that's coming toward the end of the live. So please make sure you drop down in the comment. Thank you so much. Daughter of Israel says, congratulations. Thank you, sis. Thank you so much. Thank you, because if it wasn't for you ladies, I never would have reached that milestone. Now I'm on a milestone to 1K. Every milestone is a great milestone, regardless of how great or small. So I am so appreciate each and every one of you for being here. I really, really am. We are going to talk about today. The topic we're bringing to the table is rebuilding after divorce. Rebuilding after divorce. This is a great topic, and I'm almost certain that there are a lot of us here that have been through a divorce, currently going through a divorce, or possibly contemplating a divorce. It seems like divorce has become way more common in today's society than we can remember from back in the day with our parents and with our grandparents. There are some that grew up in households where the parents or grandparents would be separated, but living in separate, sleeping in separate bedrooms, but they wouldn't divorce. Some would live by the mentality of it's cheaper to keep her, and they would rather just stay together and be miserable. But in today's society, we're seeing where women have become way more self aware, and they are deciding to choose themselves. They are deciding to choose themselves. Brenda, hey sis. Thank you so much, Diva, for pulling up to the table. I appreciate you. I can attest to being someone that went through a divorce, but I rebuilt everything that I thought I was losing 10 times over. Yes, divorce is extremely hard. It's filled with a lot of uncertainties, and it's difficult for many, many, many reasons. You go through a stage of grief and loss. Even if the marriage was bad, it can be hard to let go of the relationship and find your new normal. Divorce can be emotionally challenging. The stress and the conflict that comes along with it can be overwhelming. There are a lot of financial pressures that comes along with being divorced. You now have to become the sole provider, whereas there were two of you contributing to the marital home in most cases, right? The parenting dynamics are significantly impacted for those that have children. The children now have to be split between two separate households. Divorce can also affect your identity. You have to relearn who you are after divorce. I know I can speak for most of us when I say none of us got married just to end up in divorce, right? I know I can speak for most of us when I say that, some of us spent many years being married. So having to start over was hard. I have seen people that were married for 20 and 30 years end up in divorce for different reasons. I've seen men and women go through divorce and some come out okay, and some it took others longer to actually maneuver through the process. I can speak for myself when I say I was one of those that came out okay, but it wasn't without putting in work. It was a lot of hard work that went into it. I won't lie and say it wasn't hard, because it was. With my situation, I was married to my high school sweetheart. I got pregnant as a teenager. He went off to the military. So years later, we ended up rekindling our relationship. I moved to the city he was living in, and we ended up getting married. But what I quickly learned was you don't really know a person until you have actually lived with them. Everything is all peaches and cream until you actually live with the individual, right? And leading up to divorce, a lot of us, especially women, it's not an easy task. It's not like something you wake up one day and you just say, I'm filing for divorce. Typically, with women, before we even get to the point of throwing our hands up, throwing in the towels and saying, you know what, that's it, divorce is the only option, we go through so many emotions because, one, we try our best to figure out where we went wrong. Where did the relationship take a turn, right? Or if there's infidelity in the marriage, we try to, come to a reason and say, hey, either you stop or I'm out, whatever the case may be. Infidelity was not a part of the reason I divorced, but I do know there are so many who went through a divorce because of infidelity. However, we tend to go down a path of, what did I do? We tend to blame ourselves. We try to figure out, where did the relationship go wrong? What part did I play in the relationship? Why doesn't he love me as much as I love him? Or, and then there's a sense of embarrassment because, you spent all these years trying to build with a partner that you expected to be together, until death do us part. And you never married to get a divorce. So you go through so many different emotions getting to the point of saying, okay, yes, divorce is the final answer, because we do try to work it out. Um, as I was stating, I quickly learned that the person that I married wasn't who I thought he was. Um, his representative hung around a very long time. Before we get to really know the person, they tend to send their representative, and that's the good guy. That's the person who has it all together and the person who tells you all the right things. They do all the right things until they get you, right? And the thing with our situation, our families were very close. I was married to someone that my family, his family were very close. We grew up next door neighbors. He was 4 years older than I was. Um, so our families were very close. We went to the same church. Um, and again, what you see on the outside isn't always who they are on the inside. And I've heard, a lot of people, tend to say, especially when we are being criticized for deciding to choose us and walk away from the relationship, the women, for whatever reason, are always the ones that get criticized for what went wrong in the relationship. And, people always say, well, what did you do? Or why didn't you try to fight harder for your relationship? Or you knew who you married when you married him. And that's not necessarily true, because they send their representative. And especially when you are young, again, you have to look at the age gap in between a lot of these marriages. There are some women that I know are married to men who are many years older than they are. In my situation, my ex was 4 years older than me. So then you have to look at the situation that a lot of these men actually tend to want to marry these younger women, because there's a grooming that takes place, right? And we tend to miss a lot of the red flags that are, in our faces. Again, I was in middle school, he was in high school, and I would get the balloons and the teddy bears on Valentine's Day, and you get the little gifts, and then as a teenager, you're being wowed with um all of these gifts, and then he's telling you that he loves you, and you're the only one that he has eyes for, and you're looking like, okay, he's older and he likes me, and we both have eyes for each other, and then bam, you get married, and then you see the person for who they really are, right? So fast forwarding to all of these years, we ended up getting married. There were a lot of red flags that I missed in the process, because again, I'm in a new city. And when I say I'm in a new city, I had no family. It was only his family. He had extended family that lived in the city that we moved to, but I had no family. I left my home state of Mississippi, moved to a new city. I had no friends. I had no family. So I only had him and my kids. We were the only ones that we had. We were all we had, right? So we ended up getting married, which a red flag that should have stood out, but it didn't. He ended up proposing to me during a time that I was in such a vulnerable state, and it was during the time frame where I had to travel back home to Mississippi to bury my mom. And he proposed to me while we were there, and he wanted to rush and hurry up and get married. Again, we both were, our families knew each other. His side of the family were all in the church. I mean, I'm talking pastors, first ladies, and all of that. This was his side of the family. They were very churchy, and when I say very churchy, a lot of you may know what I'm talking about. So they wanted to rush the whole, well, back in the day they would call it shacking. It's just not good in God's eyes for you to be shacking, so y'all need to get married and all of this kind of stuff. So he used my vulnerable state of already grieving my mom to say, hey, we should just go ahead and get married while we're here. His brother was a pastor, so I was like, okay, whatever. Not even really thinking about it, just looking at the fact that okay, yes, we live together already, and when you learn better, you do better. Fast forward, we ended up getting married. um Came back home to the city again. I didn't have any friends, didn't have any family here, but he was very controlling and manipulative, to say the least. I wasn't one that dealt with any physical abuse. I didn't deal with physical abuse at all. I didn't deal with infidelity that I know of, but that was not the cause of our divorce. But I did have to deal with financial abuse. Don't get me wrong, I worked. I had a great paying job and was also the most financially stable between the two of us. My income far exceeded his throughout the entire marriage. But what I didn't understand is that um, he had a problem with that. He had a problem with me um, being more financially stable than he was. So when I say I dealt with financial abuse, it was things like him purposely not paying bills that he was responsible for, and me not finding out until after I had paid all the bills I was responsible for, then having to turn around to pay his, right? There were times he would purposely cause things to go wrong with my vehicle so that I would have to come out of pocket for repairs. He wanted to make sure that we had one vehicle. He wanted to take me everywhere. He wanted to pick me up. He wanted to do all of those things. Now, keep in mind, I told you that I was in a totally different city. So, moving to the city, I'm a country girl. I'm from Mississippi. So, the city was very new to me. I wasn't accustomed to the large city living. So, he would purposely so he would have to drive me to and from work. He would have to pick me up. He drove us to church. He drove to the grocery store. He took me to the nail shop. Just so all of those places, when I first moved to the city, he had to take me to all of these different places. But one thing I remembered is he never would go the same way twice. And he would always say things like, where you're not going to learn the city until you actually get out and drive and maybe get lost and you can find your way back. But the thing was, he never went the same way twice. So it was hard to say, okay, this is the route we took last Sunday going to church. So I'll know how to remember. I'm very good on remembering, which way to go if I go a second time. And it took our oldest daughter saying, she was like, how are we supposed to learn our way around if you never go the same way twice? Again, kids are very attentive. We think they aren't, but kids are very attentive. And it took our oldest daughter to point that out and say, how can we ever learn our way around and not have to depend on you if you never go the same way twice? And when I say same way, I'm talking he would be dipping down behind alleys, never taking the main streets, just in places that I was not familiar with, but then we end up at the same space. So I'm like, well, how was I supposed to remember that if we never went the same way? So it took me a few years to really learn that he was purposely doing those things. And I remember when I worked on a totally different side of town, and he ended up having to change his shift. So he was no longer able to take me to work and pick me up. So, mind you, this is one of the times where we were down to one vehicle. And he ended up I had to drop him off at work, and then I had to drive myself to work. And I remember there were some of the little ladies in my office. I worked with a lot of older white women. I was the only black woman in the office. And I remember a snowstorm was coming. Keep in mind, I'm from Mississippi. I did not know how to drive in snow. I still was new, so I didn't know a lot of places in the city. But how I learned my way through the city is when I started having to drive myself, and I didn't know how often, the city streets are constantly under construction and there's always a detour. So going and running into those detours helped me kind of maneuver and find my way through time through the city. And one day there was a snowstorm coming, and my boss, which was this older white lady, and she told me, she was like, I'm going to let you go home early because a snowstorm is coming. And I know you're not familiar with the streets, but I'm going to tell you a way that you can get home, get back to your side of the city so that you don't run into the main highway. So it took her. And I remember after she gave me those directions, I remembered those directions going forward. And I was so happy that I finally was learning the city, but I never told him that she told me which way to go. So his hopes was that I didn't learn my way around the city. So I remember one day, it was a Saturday, and I remember getting up, and me and the girls, I said, we're going to the nail shop. And he was like, well, I don't feel like taking you to the nail shop. And I'm like, you know what? I said, that's fine because you don't have to take me to the nail shop. I can drive myself to the nail shop. And the look on his face was one of first confusion, because how did I know how to drive myself to the nail shop? But then again, it was a look of, what do you mean? How did you learn how to drive yourself to the nail shop? I said, I know how to get there. So again, he stood there stunned, looking confused. The girls and I said, come on, girls, we're going to the nail shop. We left, we went and got our nails done, and we came back. And I said, you know what? I said, I think I got this. I don't need you to drive me anymore. I said, I'm going to get me a vehicle. Because remember, when I moved here, I already had my own home. I had my own vehicles, everything back home in Mississippi. But I sold my stuff to move here because it was cheaper to just sell everything and come and rebuy everything, opposed to trying to have everything shipped this way. So I ended up selling all of the things that I had and moving here and having to start over. So at this time, I didn't have a vehicle. So me saying that I was going to get a vehicle threw him back, because he wasn't ready for me to get a vehicle. He wanted me to actually depend on him to get me where I needed to go. So when I say financial abuse, it had a lot to do with control. He wanted to be able to control where the money went and all of that stuff. So going back, I later learned that his issue was he wanted me to need him. And I learned that when you are an independent woman, most men have a problem with your independence. They have a problem with you being able to just, make your own financial decisions and not need them for anything. And I was the type of person, I wouldn't ask for anything. I made my own money. So if I saw something that I wanted, I didn't have to go to him to say, hey, can you pay for my nails? Can you get my hair done? Can you buy me these shoes, or whatever the case may be? I knew how to just go in and I could just go get what I wanted. So, and again, when I grew up, my mama always taught me, always have a stash put to the side that that he didn't know about. So that when things went bad, I could always financially support myself and not have to depend on a man to do that. So if the day ever came that I decided that I needed to walk away from this marriage for whatever reason, I would be financially able to do so. So I made sure I always had a separate bank account that he knew nothing about. And I always had access to my funds. So if something went bad, I didn't have to depend on him. So leading up to the day that we decided to divorce, it was my decision, because again, I was starting to see so many red flags. There were so many things he was doing. One of the stories, and another thing, I ended up, because things started to get so bad within the household, that I actually started seeing myself do something to him in my dreams. And I knew then that it was time for me to walk away. I actually prayed. I said, Lord, I said, I know this is not how you would have me to live my life for the rest of my life. I'm not happy. I'm not happy in this relationship. We're not growing. We're growing apart. And when I say he was controlling, he was very controlling. It's like everywhere I went, he wanted to go. If I would make friends with coworkers at work, and one of the young ladies, we became really, really close. But he always wanted to know, like, if were they married, or if they were dating someone, who was the person they was dating. He would always want to get connected to their significant other, so that if I said I was going to hang out with her, he would always call their husband or significant other to say, hey, the lady said they're hanging out, just to kind of see if my story aligned, right? So when I say controlling, these are the things he would do. It was times to where I would have to go into work early for whatever reason. We had mandatory overtime a couple of times, and I was like, okay, we got to go in early. He would literally drive to my job and ride through the parking lot to make sure I was at work. So when we hear, Mel and some of the other ladies that we may know talk about being in a narcissistic relationship, a controlling and manipulative relationship, these are some of the things that these are some of the things he was doing. This is what they do. And I actually had a conversation with him, and I wanted to make sure, like I said, I prayed and I say, Lord, if this marriage is not for me, give me a sign. And when I say, and I'm telling you this, when you pray for something, be ready to act on what God shows you. Because if you ask, he's going to show you. So you got to be ready to move when he show you. You got to be willing to accept the things he's going to show you. And I prayed and I say, Lord, if this relationship is not for me, and if it's for me to get out of this relationship, give me a sign. And when I said, it just felt like the signs was knocking me upside my head from left to right, front to back. It was like back to back to back. He was showing me everything I needed to see. And when I say that I was so, the marriage that I was in, I felt like I couldn't breathe. I felt like I was suffocated, because it's like I could go nowhere without him. So I lost my identity because of the controlling relationship that we were in. So, and I just needed to breathe. I couldn't breathe. I was like, Lord, I can't do this. I'm like, this is not what I signed up for. I can't do this. I have to walk away. This is not, what I signed up for. So when I say I started to pray and I asked God to show me signs, right? I remember one day I was at work, and for whatever reason, our phone lines were acting up at work. I worked in the office. We could receive, we could make outgoing calls, but we couldn't receive incoming calls. Whatever the reason, the phone lines were messed up. And he was the type of person to where, mind you, I'm driving myself to work. I just left home, right? As soon as I get up the street, he's calling my cell phone. He would talk to me all the way to work until I got to work. I would get to work. I say, okay, I'm here. Have a good day. I'll talk to you later. I get to my desk. 5 minutes later, he's calling my work phone. The desk at the phone at my desk. Oh, I was just calling to see if you made it okay. Just little things. Now, mind you, in the beginning, these things are cute, right? You think that, okay, he loves me. He's checking on me. He want to make sure I'm safe. You're missing all of the red flags. You're not looking at this as being a controlling situation, right? I'm thinking he just wanted to make sure I made it to work. That's my thought process in the beginning. And I said, okay. I say, I'm here. I'll talk to you later. Have a good day. Lunchtime call. I go in the break room. He's calling my cell phone. He will talk to me my entire break. Okay, the break is over. Go back to my desk. He would call me again. And then after work, when it's time for me to get off, he would talk to me from the time I got off until the time I got home. All day, every day. So when I said I couldn't breathe. This is what I meant. I could not breathe. It was times to where I was so miserable at home that I would park. We had a 24-hour Walgreens that was up the street from our house. I remember there were times to where I hated to go home so much. I would pull up in that Walgreens parking lot and park there for like an hour just to decompress because I didn't know what fresh hell awaited when I got home. And again, keep in mind, there was no physical abuse. It was just controlling and it's manipulative. It is no matter what you do or say, there was always something wrong with what you did, how you did it, and all of that case. And it was more so of he was very insecure. His problem was, who was talking to you, what guy was talking to you, do you have guys at your job? And I'm like, well, I've never worked a job where there were no men. Do women work with you? It was things like that, those type of stupid questions, I would say. And it was because he was insecure with who he was. So I remember one day, again, back to the phone's not working. I remember one day I was in the office, the phone wasn't working. So I ended up calling him. I said, hey, I'm at work, just letting you know our phones aren't working. So we won't be able to receive any incoming calls or what have you. And then, so he knew that a lot of times my coworkers and me, we would go to lunch together. So he had called and he called my cell phone. He said, are you going to lunch with your coworkers today? And I said, no, not today. I said, I'm going to send one of the ladies, I'm going to have her bring me something back because I'm working on something and I don't want to take a break. And unbeknownst to me, I'm sitting here. I sent my coworker. She went to get me some lunch. So she came to my desk, walking to me with my lunch, and she was like, I thought you weren't leaving for lunch today. And I said, oh, I'm not leaving. And she was like, well, I see your husband parked outside down the street. And I'm like, what? And she was like, yeah, your husband. Now keep in mind, we shared vehicles for a long time before I got my own car, right? So she knew the vehicle that I used to drive to work. So I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe I am going to lunch, trying to play it off, not trying to alarm anybody to let them know that he's just as crazy as I'm thinking he is, right? So I called him on his cell phone and I was like, I said, are you outside of my job? And he was like, no, I'm not outside. I was like, well, why did my coworker just come in and say that she saw your car outside? And again, I told you, I prayed. I said, God, if this relationship is not for me, and if it's your will for me to leave this marriage, show me a sign. Sign number one. So when I called and he said he wasn't, there just happened to be an ambulance coming up the street by my job, right? Why did I hear that same ambulance in the phone while I was talking to him? And I said, well, if you're not outside my job, why do I see the same ambulance, hear the same ambulance that I see coming past my job? And I said, well, let me step outside and see. I saw him pulling away. He didn't know that I saw him, but I saw him pulling away, right? Sign number one. So then there was another day. I worked second shift at this time. I worked at Wells Fargo. I worked in the home mortgage department, right? So I was going in, and the thing about it, and what I loved more about working at Wells Fargo is that it was very secured. Nobody could come in the building if you did not work there. You had to badge in. We were not allowed to talk on our phones or anything while we were on the floor, right? Because we dealt with a lot of confidential information, banking information, and stuff like that. So we were not allowed to have our cell phones, nor could we receive personal phone calls while we were actually working outside of breaks. So he couldn't get to me. And that bothered him that he could not talk to me. But let me tell you, when I would turn my cell phone on, when I would take a break, when I say my phone would pop up and it would be 15, 20 messages like back to back to back. And again, these were red flags. These were signs, right? So at this point, it's not cute anymore. So I ended up, one day it was raining. I told him I had to go to work early. One day it was raining. And I was pulling up to my job. I had to stop by a store before I came to work, right? I had to return something. I said, well, you know what? Let me do that because it's en route to the work. So I'm pulling up into my parking lot. Why is it as I'm pulling up, he's pulling out? And I'm literally, we are rolling past each other. He's coming out of my parking lot as I'm coming into my parking lot. And he's driving by and I'm just looking. We make eye contact. And I'm sitting here like, are you kidding me? So he didn't believe the fact that I had to go to work early. So he wanted to come and see if I was going to work early, right? So fast forward, that's red flag and sign number two. Fast forward another day, I'm parking in the parking lot. I'm getting ready. It's raining really hard. So I'm walking into, we had to go through revolving doors to get in the building. So I had to stop at the revolving door to shake off my umbrella because it was raining really hard. And something said, look up. I looked up. I saw his vehicle just as clear as day, pulling up and parking into a parking space as if he was parking to come to work. So I'm calling his phone. I say he wasn't answering. And when I say I'm calling back to back to back to back, he would not answer the phone. I'm texting at the same time I'm calling. And I'm like, excuse my French. I'm like, nigga, are you in my parking lot? He wouldn't respond. And I'm sitting there and I text him back. I'm like, I'm literally looking out the window at you. I'm literally looking at you. So when he got that message, he pulled out to leave. So I'm calling because, again, I'm seeing all of this. I'm calling him. He's not responding. He didn't respond until he got on the street. He finally answered the phone. I said, why are you in my parking lot? And he was like, I'm not in your parking lot. I was in a meeting. I was sitting there like, I know your vehicle. There's no way you can tell me. I was like, you're sick. So again, when I say I prayed, God was showing me, I prayed and he showed me. So I said, you know what? This is not how I want to live the rest of my life. This is not how I want to live the rest of my life. So I made a conscious decision to have a conversation with him. I waited until our girls weren't home one day, and it was one day before work. And I wanted to make sure it was a day that we were not in a heated argument about anything. It was a good day. So I woke up and I said, you know what? I said, I need space. I can't do this anymore. I say it's taking a toll on me emotionally, and we just need space. Now, keep in mind, I had already sought out another place to live. I had already went to the furniture store and put a whole house full of furniture on layaway, and I had been paying on it. I put it on layaway because I didn't have a place to store it without him being aware of it. So I kept it on layaway so that I could pay on it until it was time for me to move out. So I had a conversation with him and said, you know, hey, we need space. I can't do this. I can't do this anymore. And he was like, well, space means you're not coming back. If you leave, you're not coming back. I say, you know what? And again, when you are dealing with someone who is narcissistic, and someone who's controlling and manipulative, you have to say the right things, right? A lot of people will look at it as if, oh, you're playing with their emotions, or no, you have to be strategic in the things that you say, especially in today's society. So you have to be strategic on the conversation. So I say, well, you know what? You never know what the future holds. I say, but right now, I need space. I said, and because it's my decision, you can stay here. I'll just start over. Right. Again, when I say I grieved the loss of having to start over because I left everything. We had 3 stories, right? I left everything. I said the only thing that I want to take is the girls' bedrooms and my washer and dryer. Other than that, you can have everything else. So I ended up And he seemingly was okay with it. He said, well, okay. And I said, I'm saying this and I'm having this conversation because we're not angry, because I don't want you to think that I'm saying what I'm saying out of anger. I'm saying it because this is what I'm really feeling. I said, I need space. I'm not trying to inconvenience you because it was my decision. I said, but I just need space. I can't do this. I say, you can see the girls whenever you want to see the girls. But in my mind, he was not going to know where I was living. I said, I'm leaving. I said, I'm trying to find somewhere to go. I said, I just need 30 days and I'll be gone. And literally, the house that I was getting would be available in 30 days. So I was just waiting for the 30 days to come past. So I'm thinking it was a great relationship, great conversation, right? We weren't angry. We weren't yelling. It was a nice, calm conversation. So I thought. So fast forward a couple of, I think maybe, mind you, I had bought a brand new vehicle, right? I had bought me a brand new Jeep. I had just had it, just got it. So one morning, this was after the conversation, maybe about a week after the conversation we had. Um, Again, he was sleeping upstairs, I was sleeping downstairs. At this point, we were not in the same bedroom at all. It was to the point to where I would be in the room and I would lock the door. We could be in the same, and again, let me tell you this. We could be in the same house. I could go upstairs to get in the shower and he would come and stand outside of the door. I could go in the girls' room and lay across the bed with the girls and talk to the girls. He would be outside of the door. I would go downstairs. He would come downstairs. Wherever I was, that's where he would that's where he wanted to be. It was like a sick obsession. And I had a conversation with him one day. And again, I didn't know the city. His whole plan, his whole thought process was he brought me to this city so he didn't want anyone else to get close to me. So I had a conversation. During the conversation, I said, I bet if you had the opportunity and if you could, you would just lock me in a cage and throw away the key, wouldn't you? He looked at me straight in the face and he said, yes, I would. And you know what? I took that at face value. That's when I said, this Negro is crazy. I don't know what if the military did something to him when he went to the military, but I know I missed a lot of red flags, and I knew it was time to go. He actually said, "Yes, I would," and I said, "That's sick, and that's very unfortunate, because I'm not living like a prison in my own home. I couldn't breathe, I couldn't go anywhere, and I say, Lord, I know you have more for me than this." I know this is not how you want me to live the rest of my life. And it got bad because the kids started to notice. And, we try to shield our children as much as we possibly think we can. But when I say children know, they are aware. They are aware of the discord between mama and daddy. They know when you are arguing, even when they can't hear it. They can sense it, they can feel it. And when I say it affects the kid, it do affect the children. So if you are in an unhealthy relationship, if getting out to to save your peace, if you got to get out to save your peace, you got to do what you got to do, because this mental anguish is not worth you ruining the rest of your life, because this is not how we are supposed to live. The children know. They knew everything. So after we had that conversation, before I went to work, I had to be at work at 1 o'clock. So my shift at that time was 1 p.m. to 10 p.m. So before that, I had spoken with my oldest daughter. I said, let's go to the nail shop. She and I went to the nail shop together. So after the nail appointment, I dropped her back off at home. And then at this time, it's time for me to go to work. Keep in mind, I said I had just bought a brand new vehicle, right? I dropped my daughter off. I was 5 minutes, and mind you, I didn't work far from home. I was 5 minutes away from home after dropping my daughter off. All of a sudden, my car, the hand on my car started going from left and right really, really fast. My engine light started to blink really, really fast. It's like I'm driving and I'm mashing the gas pedal all the way down, but it's jerking and it's not going anywhere. Keep in mind, again, I said this is a brand new vehicle. So I stop, I call the dealership and I tell them what's going on. I say, I'm not sure what's going on. I say, this is what's going on, and this and that. He said, well, what color is the engine light flashing? I said, it's flashing red. He said, stop, don't go any further. I'm sending a tow truck. Do not go anywhere else. And I'm like, oh my God. I said, what is going on? I said, this is crazy. I said, this is a brand new vehicle. So they send the tow truck. They said, we're going to tow it to the dealership. We're going to check it out. And we're going to call you and let you know around lunchtime what the issue is. And so they dropped me off at work. I went to work. So again, I'm working, going about my day, waiting on the dealership to call me to let me know what's going on with my vehicle. So they called me back and they was like, oh, we found your problem. And I was like, okay, what's going on? And they say, well, you have contaminated gas. And I said, contaminated gas? Me, unbeknownst to me, I had no idea what contaminated gas was. I'm trying to revisit where I last got gas. I said, well, I got my gas at the same place I always get gas. I said, so I'm confused at what you're saying. And he said, well, when I say contaminated gas, what I mean is somebody put sugar in your tank. And I was like, what? No, that's impossible. Again, I'm new to the city, don't have friends, don't have family. I have no beef with anybody. Nobody bothers me. I don't bother anybody. Who in the world would put gas in my tank? I say, no, that's impossible. He said, yes, you have contaminated gas. This is what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to, and luckily your insurance covers the contaminated gas situation, so we can get you in a rental car, but we're going to have to keep your vehicle, because the thing about it is, once sugar is in the tank, when the car heats up and then when it cools off, different things all over the place starts to stick. Okay, right. So they came to get me. They sent the service vehicle to come and to pick me up from work, to bring me to the dealership to get a rental car. So before that happens, I call him. I said, I just got off the phone with the dealership and they told me that I had contaminated gas. Him acting all surprised, like, oh my God, what's going on? What do you mean contaminated gas? I said, they said somebody put sugar in my tank. He was like, sugar in your tank? I said, did you put sugar in my tank? And again, I'm saying this lightly, but I didn't say it like that when I was talking to him. When I said I was on 10, I was on 10, but I was at work, so I had to be professional. He said, no, I didn't put sugar in your tank. And I know when his voice get high pitched, he's lying. I knew he was lying. And he said, I didn't put sugar in your tank. Why would I put sugar in your tank? And I said, well, I don't know. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Here's the key. He was doing anything to keep me from leaving. He knew I needed my vehicle. He knew we had a conversation that I was leaving. He knew I had 30 days. He was doing everything in his power to keep me from leaving him. So he put the sugar in my tank. So my daughter ended up beeping in as I'm talking to him. I said, well, you know what? I'll just talk to you later. I said, but here's the thing. I said, they're going to do an investigation. I say, and if your fingerprints come up near my gas tank, you're going to jail. I say, I'm done. At this point, I'm pissed. I'm pissed. So again, I hung up with him because my youngest daughter was calling. And Pete, this, I said again, Lord, if this is not for me, show me a sign. My daughter calls. Here's another sign. She said, Mom, I want to make some Kool-Aid. And I said, okay, we'll go make some Kool-Aid. She said, we're out of sugar. There's no sugar. I said, this man put sugar in my tank, right? He said he didn't. When I last checked, we had sugar in the canister in the kitchen. This Negro didn't even have the sense enough to go buy his own bag of sugar. He took the sugar, the evidence, out of the kitchen. Weird. I say, okay, that was my proof. That's all I needed to know. He got extremely angry when I said, if they did an investigation and his fingerprints came on my car, I was going to have him arrested. He called his family. He had a sister, nieces, and nephews here. I had no family. So he called his family immediately and told them that I threatened to call the police and all of that. Again, if you put sugar in my tank, of course I'm going to call the police. So fast forward from that. So I ended up getting a rental car. So I pull up at home in the rental car, which he wasn't expecting. He was hoping that I wouldn't have a vehicle so that I would have to depend on him. He did not like the fact that I had my own vehicle and that I could maneuver as I wanted to without him. That was a problem. I had no idea that that was a problem because in my mind, I said we had a conversation. We agreed that we were going to separate and that I needed space. In my mind, I knew once I got out of that house, I wasn't going back, but I couldn't tell him that. I just told him I needed space, right? Um, Fast forward, they ended up fixing what they could fix on my vehicle. Again, I told you it was a brand new vehicle. Every 2 weeks, my car was back at the dealership. And when I say they replaced everything under the hood that they possibly could replace from this sugar being put in this tank, because again they said when the car heats, the sugar gets sticky. When the car cools off, whatever the sugar particles is sticking to, then it sticks, so that part is not working anymore. And it was so bad to the dealership told me, if you have to bring this vehicle in one more time, we're giving you another vehicle because we have replaced everything under the engine that we could possibly replace at this point. So we ended up leaving. I had to have a conversation with my daughter. And mind you, this is how oblivious he was to me moving. I had started taking pictures off the wall, packing stuff up. He did not notice any of those things missing. And I was moving a little bit by little bit. There were times to where I wouldn't let him know that I was off work early and he was at work. I would go home and take stuff and take it to the new place so that he wouldn't be there, because the goal was he was not to know where I was moving to. By no means necessary. I had to have a conversation with my daughter. I say, your dad is not to know where we live. By no means necessary. If he asks you, you don't know. No means necessary is he to know where we live. And it was times to where I couldn't go straight to work and straight home. I had to literally drive through the city just in case he would possibly be parked outside and watching to see where I was going. He was calling my daughters, like, where did y'all live? I know y'all live over here and over there. And they was like, no, we don't. Again, they're young, they're impressionable. But I had already had the conversation. By no means is he to know where we live. So he was constantly calling, like, where do you live? Where do you live? I say, why is that important? And so anyway, I ended up moving out. I ended up doing my divorce pro bono, by myself. This is how serious I was. I had to go back and forth to the courthouse to get documents, send documents, and it was a process. Again, I'm in a city, all by myself. I had no friends, no family. At this time, I hadn't even called my family to tell them that I was going through a divorce because it was my decision. And I was trying to move through this as strategically as possible and without anybody else being involved. This was my decision, so I was trying to do it the best way possible. I remember there was a day, I was at home. Again, this is during the process where I had told him we were moving. So it was like he just became a totally different person. And I'm thinking that we had a conversation. He was purposely trying to start arguments. And I'm like, well, what's the problem? Because, we had a conversation. I thought we were on the same page. We both agreed that space would be good. And, I just needed space. I said, but it just seems like every day you're coming back with, a new argument. And I had made it up in my mind that I was not going to argue with him anymore, because I know he was purposely saying and doing things to force me to argue with him. And I made up in my mind that I wasn't going to argue with him anymore. And I remember one day I was ironing my clothes and I was getting ready to go to work. And I'm just humming. I was just humming and ironing my clothes. He came downstairs and he looked at me and he was like, Oh, you must have another nigga. And I was like, what? And again, this was totally out of the blue because I hadn't even said anything to him at this point. And I was like, well, why would you say that? And he was like, well, how are you moving and you're not taking anything? You must be moving in with somebody else. And I was like, no, I'm not moving in with anybody. And I said, and I'm not going to argue with you, right? I say, no, I'm not moving in with anybody. He went back upstairs. Few minutes later, I'm finishing ironing, trying to get dressed to go to work. He come back downstairs and he was like, you ain't shit. And again, um, and I heard the Lord say, he's trying to pull an argument out of you. Just ignore it. And again, I had the good angel and the bad angel. The bad angel was saying, say this or say that. And I was like, you know what? He wants me to argue, and I don't want him to cause me to have a bad day, right? So I didn't say anything. He went back upstairs. And again, I told you this was a time that I had just lost my mom not long ago, right? So again, I'm still emotional and I'm still dealing with that. I had lost my mom, and he knew that was a very sensitive topic for me. He knew that was a very sensitive topic. When he saw that he could not get me to argue with him, he came back downstairs and he said something derogatory about my mom. And at that point, I lost it because, again, I told you I was ironing, I was getting ready for work. And before I knew it, the bad devil had taken over. And I just remember throwing the iron so hard that it missed his head by an inch because he said something about my mom. But that was the reaction that he wanted to get. He wanted that reaction. And I told him, I said, if there was ever a possibility that I would have rethought my decision of leaving, you just messed it up. I say, you just finalized and made me aware that the decision I'm making was the right decision. And don't get me wrong, I had second thoughts. It was times to where I felt like, well, you know what? Let's just see if maybe we can see if we can work it out. But after that, that was proof that the decision I was making to walk away was the right decision. And a lot of times when we're going through a divorce, when I say it's hard, when I say it pulls on our heartstrings, because sometimes they can do something and will cause you to remember the good times that you had. You would kind of feel like, okay, maybe the relationship, the marriage is worth fighting for, and we may go back and then we'll spend another 6 months to a year because they're good for a while. Then they tend to go back to their old ways, and then here we go, we're back to this whole game of tug of war. And you just have to be strong enough to say, I'm done with the tug of war. I'm done with trying to make it work. I'm out. I'm out. I'm leaving. I'm done. This was the test that I needed to show that my decision was the right decision. And that's why it's so easy for people on the outside to try to victimize you for making a decision to choose yourself when you're going through situations like this. They don't know what was going on behind closed doors. Nobody knew what I was going through behind closed doors. And again, I said I hadn't even told my family. He told my family. He called my family and told them that I was leaving him. No, he didn't tell them I was leaving. He told them that he caught me with another man. This was his story to my dad, to my brother, to my godmom. He told them. They had no idea that we were going through marital issues and that we were about to get divorced. I hadn't even told them. My plan was I was going to tell them after I had left, everything was finalized, and I was in my new place. He took it upon himself to call everybody. When I say flying monkeys, when we hear Mel talk about how they try to tell their friends and get all of the friends and family members to go against you. I live that. I live. So when I say I rock with Mel the long way, I rock with Mel that way because what she experienced, I can attest to that. I went through something similar. I was married to somebody who tried to turn everybody against me. He wanted to isolate me. He wanted to make me feel like because I didn't have family in the city, if he could turn everybody against me, I would be more apt to stay. I would be more apt to not leave. He wanted to make it feel like I couldn't make it. I heard the conversation of, who's going to want you with two kids, or you can't make it by yourself. You may as well go back to Mississippi, and you can't make it by yourself with two kids. I heard all of that, all of those stuff. So you don't think that those types of conversations make you kind of want to second guess your decision to choose you and walk away? Those type of conversations are what he was saying. Those are the things he was saying behind closed doors. I was second guessing my decision, and I'm sitting here like, I'm in this big city with no friends, no family. Can I make it? Am I making the right decision, or should I just stay? So then I had to ask myself, do I choose misery or do I choose peace? Because if I stay, I'm going to be miserable. But if I leave, I know I'm going to have peace. And I know that God has more for me than what I'm going through in this relationship. So I chose me. I walked away from it. I didn't look back, which is, excuse me, which is why my birthday is December 1st. And my birthday is actually the same day my divorce was finalized when I got divorced. Excuse me. So that's like a double celebration for me, because again, he was dodging being served the papers, because it's a whole process when you're going through a whole divorce, especially when there are kids involved, right? But he was dodging being served the papers. I was calling, the sheriff's office, like, well, what's taking so long? Because I'm waiting on a divorce date, right? A court date. And they're saying, well, we have been unsuccessful in serving him the papers. And I was like, well, what do you mean? Well, we've gone to the house, he's never there, or nobody ever comes to the door. We went to the last address that we have, he's not there, and this. And I say, well, hold on, I'll call you back. Give me a minute. I called his job and I asked to speak to him to see if he was there. They was like, oh yeah, he's here. So when he answered, I hung up. I immediately called the sheriff's office back. I said, here's the address. This is his job. He is there now. If you go now, you can serve those papers. I knew exactly when they got there and served him the papers because he was blowing my phone up. He called me probably about 45 minutes later. He was, when I say he was hotter than a firecracker, he called me and he was like, you had the sheriff come to my job. I said, excuse me. I said, what are you talking about? I'm acting like I didn't know anything that was going on. He was like, how dare you have me serve divorce papers on my job? And my coworkers were there and everybody saw. I was like, boy, F you and your coworkers at this point. My point was, I just needed you to get them papers because you're prolonging this situation. I say, now that the papers have been served, I'll see you in court. And I hung up the phone because at this point, enough was enough. And when I say, when I moved, when my divorce was final, well, it wasn't final when I finally moved out, but when I moved into my new place and me and my girls, when I say it was such a weird feeling being able to open my door and walk in my house, and it was peaceful. It was days to where I would just sit in the floor and cry because it was a feeling that was so abnormal. Chaos had become so normal in my marriage that when I had peace, it was different. And being able to separate yourself from the chaos, the mental abuse, all of the negativity and the talk that comes along with it, making you feel like you're less than, but because you decided to choose you over staying in a situation that just wasn't working. Marriage it don't work. It don't always work for whatever reason. We can try as hard as we want to. And and I know a lot of people that say, well, stay, don't divorce. God doesn't honor divorce. You stay and take it. But you don't know how many women are staying in marriages and relationships, and behind closed doors they're getting beaten and abused, and all of these bad things are happening, and you telling me to stay because you don't know the full situation. You're on the outside looking in. And of course, we went to church every Sunday, and he would sit on this pew as if he was the best husband in the world, but we was living in hell at home. So you don't always see the person that they are at home. You see the representative. That's who he allows, friends and family to see. They don't know what you deal with behind closed doors. So don't ever allow anybody to make you feel less than because you decided to choose you. And when I walked into my new home and I was able to just walk in and it was peaceful, I could go to work and I could come home. I didn't have to worry about, well, who were you talking to, and who's calling your phone? Who are you texting? And I didn't have to worry about any of that stuff. I could walk in my house and it was peaceful. It was me and my babies. It was peace. And for those who don't understand the importance of having peace, and I'm talking about be it your significant other, friends, family, or whomever it is, if it's somebody that is disturbing your peace, be okay with cutting them off and walking away. So when we're talking about rebuilding after divorce, this is how good God is, because it was after I walked away and decided to choose me. When I say God blessed me so much, it was so many blessings that came my way, so many doors he opened for me, so many opportunities that he opened for me, because I was attached to the wrong person. And see, a lot of times we just need to be honest with ourselves and understand that we are attached to the wrong person. It may look good, it may be shiny and look real good and golden on the outside, but the person you get from the inside is the true test, because they're not all that they say they are. It's a representative. But when I say I found peace after walking away from that marriage, and I rebuilt everything that I thought I lost 10 times over, and look at me now. There's no way I could have been who I am today had I still been married to the person that I was married to then. It's absolutely no way it would have been possible, because he didn't have the mindset for that. He didn't have the mental capacity to handle a woman like me. When I say a woman like me, that's somebody who's motivated, somebody who's innovative, creative, busy in the community. There's no way he would have been able to handle it. And it took me 2 years. I was divorced for 2 years before I started dating again. It took me 2 years I had to learn myself over again. I had to learn, who Pink Diva was outside of marriage, right? I had to relearn all of those things about myself. I had to adjust to this new normal that I was now the sole provider for the household. I had to also get the courage to understand that, yes, we're in a new city. We don't have family here. It's just me and my babies. We got. Literally, we were all we had. It was just me and my baby. So I had to learn, because I was the protector. I had to learn. It was hard. Yes, it was hard, because not only did I have to go to work, my girls had to go to school. So I would have to drive them to school. And my girls are 7 years apart. So they were at two different schools. I had to drive them to school. I had to pick them up. I had to go to work. I had to have a conversation with my manager at work. And I say, look, I went through a divorce. I'm newly divorced. I cannot work this shift of 1 p.m. to 10 p.m. because I have girls that I need to be at home with. So I need to switch my shift. So there was a lot of things that I had to go through to kind of maneuver into just becoming the sole provider of the household when I no longer had a man, and then not having a man in the house too, right? So again, you have to get accustomed to having to do everything by yourself. But I'll say this 10 times over, I will choose that over staying in a situation that was wearing me down any day. So again, you're going through a divorce. There are different reasons why you go through divorce, some infidelity, abuse, whatever the case may be. And sometimes you just grow apart. Sometimes there's no malice, you just grow apart. You fall out of love. That's possible. So whatever the reason is, choose you at the end of the day. Don't don't let people make you feel bad about making the decision to choose you and walk away. And I can guarantee you, even though it seems that things may be hard in the beginning, the thing is, the signs that we ignore in the beginning of a relationship becomes the reasons things come to an end. I ignored all of those red flags in the beginning, but those same red flags were the reason why that marriage ended. And I had to learn that going through my divorce was the part where I actually had to find out who I was. And I also learned that what one man may complain about, the next man is praying for. So don't you ever let the man that you're divorcing or in a relationship with, contemplating on divorcing, don't ever allow that man to make you feel like you're less than. Nobody will want you, because guess what? The same things he's complaining about, the next man is praying for those very same things. When I say, and I remarried 2 years after, I didn't remarry 2 years, but I got into a relationship 2 years after um my divorce. When I say I have an amazing husband, y'all, when I say he is my best friend, I have an amazing, amazing husband. And he is the complete opposite of what I had. And he was exactly who God wanted me to have. Because see, sometimes we miss our blessings because we are attached to the wrong people. And once you remove those bad and those wrong people out of your life, that's when God can really send you who's meant for you. So again, when I say I have an amazing husband, I have an amazing husband. He is so supportive. He is so supportive of all of my endeavors, anything that I want to do. He encourages me, he motivates me, he pushes me, and he's just amazing. The total opposite. I didn't get that before. I didn't get any of those things. I didn't get the support. I got jealousy. I got hatred. I got insecurities. All of these things to try to beat you down mentally to make it feel like, oh, well, you shouldn't do that. Oh, that's not a good idea. And we're going to save that for another topic, because when I say I could write a series, I could write a series of what I went through in that marriage. So when we're sitting here talking about rebuilding after divorce, it's absolutely possible. And I'm sure most of us watched the interview that Mel had with Black Enterprise last week, where she talked about rebuilding after divorce. That's a real thing. That's a real thing. She also shared her timeline of how she maneuvered through life to get to where she is today. She talked about her time at her HBCU Alabama A&M. She talked about becoming a middle school educator, her contribution to her community in the city of Huntsville. She also elaborated on her journey to becoming a sole entrepreneur. She spoke about rebuilding herself after divorce. And when we look at her resume of all of the things that she actually rebuilt after her divorce and walking away and letting everything go. I walked away. So when people say that we trauma bond with Mel and this show, it's not a trauma bond for me. It's her resilience that I was attracted to. It was her ability to go through something that I myself had went through, and I was able to overcome and rebuild myself. So I know that there are many, many, many women that are looking at her for the same reasons, being able to see like, and again, trust me, she went through a very public divorce. She went through a very traumatic divorce of there was infidelity, there was another kid involved. I didn't go through that, but I did go through a divorce. I did go through a process of walking away from somebody that meant me no good. He had no good intentions for me. And I can see some of the similarities of the things that I went through in something that Mel went through. So how dare I not support somebody that I have seen rebuild herself after going through a very public, a very humiliating divorce on national TV. There's no way that anybody can sit and be mad at this lady for walking away from somebody that was trying to break her down, because you know what? I was attached to somebody who was trying to break me down. And what I refuse to do is allow anybody to make me feel bad for the decision that I made to choose me. Do you actually think that we should just stay and just take the mental abuse? We should just stay and just allow these men to treat us any old kind of way, but just stay because you got a man. You know, any man is better than no man, not in my eyesight. I would rather be at home and happy by myself without having to deal with a piece of man that is tearing up my peace, that is step by step, one by one, constantly manipulating, constantly tearing me down behind my back. There's no way. I would, if I had to do it all over again, I would still do it the exact same way. I would take the little pieces of peace that I had, put it in my suitcase, and walk away with my head held high on any day outside of choosing to stay with somebody that did not mean me any good. I chose me. I chose the well being of my children, because whether we know it or not, if mama is not happy, the kids are not happy. And I don't understand why people don't tend to see that. The kids can sense when mama is not happy. There is a bond between a mother and her children that is just unspoken words between the two. And they can sense when something is going wrong. You don't think that the kids know when you go in that closet and you have to break down and cry? They know. There were many days where my oldest daughter would come and tell me, Mama, we knew. I just didn't say nothing. But they knew. And when those kids get older, they'll be able to tell her, we knew, we heard it, we saw it. So they know. So how dare you think that as a woman, just for the sake of saying, at least I have a man, I would continue to put my kids, let alone myself, through the mental anguish of being in a household to where we're not happy. Because there's no way the kids can thrive when mama's unhappy. It's no way. There's no way me as a mother could operate if I'm not operating in my best self. There's no way that I can make sure I'm being attentive to the kids and everything around us in the household. We have to be at our best self. So if I'm in a relationship that is preventing me from being my best self, you know what I need to do? I got to check myself. I got to get myself out of that situation. It's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. It's just not. Teresa said, that's awesome. I have an amazing husband too. My husband is by far the best thing that happened to me. I have never had to pay a bill. My money is my money. I thank God for him. Absolutely, sis. I totally agree. When I say I thank God for my husband, I wake up every day and go to bed every night praying that the Lord keeps him covered and bring him home safely, because when I say I got a good man, Savannah. He is amazing. And I would not trade him for nothing in the world. So I do know that even after divorce, there is still true love. So for people to sit around and want to say, oh, well, nobody will want you with kids and want, yes, they will. Yes, they will. they will love you just as well as anybody else will love you. So yes, they will. Teresa says, my husband came in and raised my boys as if they were his. Nobody knows that he isn't the father. He is the only poppy the grandkids know. There are good men out there, period. Absolutely. Awesome. There are awesome men. Cinnamon Swirl says, exactly. Melody is a living example of when you, what's best, when you want what's best for yourself and our babies. Absolutely, Cinnamon Swirl. I totally agree. She, to me, is the epitome of rebuilding after divorce. And I'm not sitting here saying that she is the only one. I'm the only one that has gone through a divorce, that have experienced what she experienced, or any of that. There are many women who have gone through divorce, many women who are currently going through divorce, but I'm talking about what we see on the TV screen, right? We're talking about what she has shown us on the TV screen. We have seen her ex husband's behavior, we have seen what she had to go through. And there are so many signs that I saw in Martell, that I saw in my ex husband. And I could only imagine what was going on behind closed doors. So, how dare anybody look at her and say, and then the thing too, I'm so tired of people always trying to say that just because the lady hasn't moved on and into another relationship, that she's mad about somebody else's relationship. Well, guess what? Sometimes we choose to not want to move in relationships, and a lot of times it usually always is. It takes time for us. We don't always just jump into another relationship after we just came out of a relationship. Now, granted, I do know a lot of women who just can't be alone. There are a lot of women I know that just can't be alone, and they'll jump from relationship to relationship. And I know some men like that too. But every woman is just not into jumping from relationship to relationship. It took me 2 years to date again after my divorce. So you have to allow, everybody's healing process is different. Everybody goes through different times in their lives, as if some people want to focus on rebuilding. Let me reconnect with myself and who I am before, I decide, okay, yes, I want to get into another relationship. This woman has 4 children. Not only does she have 4 children, not only is she relearning who she is all over again, she's building businesses. She's trying to leave a legacy for these 4 beautiful children that she has. Who got time to think about moving into another relationship? And don't get me wrong, granted, I do believe that she dates. I do believe that she dates here and there when she chooses to, and that's her decision. But there is no hurry for her to rush and jump into a relationship for the sake of people seeing who she's with, or that she's actually in a relationship. Who cares? It's her life. She moves when she chooses to move, if she desires to. That's her decision. We can't force anybody into another relationship. Get get accustomed to learning how to be by yourself. It's a beautiful thing, learning yourself all over again, getting back into doing some of the things that you like to do before you got married. Because a lot of times some of us lose who we are when we're in these relationships. We lose the person that we were before we get with these men in these relationships, because some of them just they want you to put what you want to do on the back burner. Let's table that. Let's not do that right now. I don't think now is the time for you to try to focus on that. Let hint hint Tisha. Men would talk you down off of following your dreams and visions and the things that you want to do. So you have to make sure that you don't lose yourself in your relationship. Always still find time for you to do some of the things you want to do, to engage in some of the hobbies that you desire to be a part of. Build your businesses, follow your dreams. You can still do that and be married. It nowhere did I see ever that if you get married, you have to let go of your dreams and visions. You don't have to do that. You have every right to still follow your dreams just because you are married. There are ways that you can still be married, raise your children, make sure you're active in their school and home life, and still follow your dreams and do some of the things that you like to do. You don't have to let go of who you are. And you just have, and a lot of times when it's the men that are complaining about that, is because they're insecure and they don't want to see you do better than them. They're lazy. They don't have any get up and go about themselves. So they don't want you to do it either. So they try to talk you out of outshining them, and they have a problem with that. So we just have to be careful, make sure we are paying attention to the red flags, but most importantly, knowing that there absolutely is life after divorce. You can rebuild, you can lose everything in that divorce. Let it go, let it stay over there where he is, and you can still bounce back just as big as you were when you were in that relationship. You can definitely do it. Don't ever let anybody tell you that you can't, because it's possible. And I know if I can do it, I know that if Mel did it and many other women that did it, I know you can do it too. D says, my husband supports me as I'm living my dream, owning my own business as an interior decorator. That is amazing, D, and congratulations on you. That's what I'm talking about. We have to make sure we are connecting ourselves to men that really have our best interests at heart. We really do. Cinnamon Swirl says, once my divorce is final, I want to take at least 1 year just for me. Absolutely. I did the same thing. I took two, but you have to take some time for yourself. You definitely have to make sure that um you are spending time with you, getting to know yourself, and just doing things that you enjoy doing. And it'll be, and don't get me wrong, it'll feel a little awkward in the beginning because you're not accustomed to it, especially to some of us that were married for many, many years. It really takes some getting used to, and we go through all of those emotions of, I don't think I can do it. We second guess ourselves. Should I go back? This, that, or the other. So all of those emotions are very normal, but you still can rebuild after divorce for sure. I have been doing a lot of talking. We are 1 hour and 27 minutes in. Oh my goodness, I've done a lot of talking. I put the link in the chat if anybody would like to come up and share their story of going through a divorce or rebuilding after divorce. We would love to hear what you have to say. If not, that's fine too. But I put the link in the chat. So please feel free to step up and share your story, because it definitely can help us and so many other people. Be True said, you are a wonderful storyteller. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you so much, Diva. I really appreciate that. When I say I could write a book, I could write a book. I probably could produce a lifetime mini series with the stories that I have. But I'm just so appreciative that God have allowed us to bring this platform together so that we can share stories like that, so that we can help each other, right? Because there's so many of us going through it, or may be in the process of it, and probably second guessing yourself because sometimes the people around you will try to persuade you to stay and make you feel like it's not a good decision for you to walk away, but choose you at the end of the day. Choose you. You can rebuild after it. You know, relationships come and go. I mean, that's life. Yes, do all that you can to make it work. It's up to you. You can stay 5 years to try to make it work if you want to. You can stay 6 or 7. It's up to you. But whenever you decide that the time is right for you to make that move, you make that move, and don't you allow anybody to make you feel guilty about it. Bad Apple said, I've never had a man support me in any significant way except for my male friends who are like brothers to me. I know that's right. Always have your own, sis. My mom always told me, always keep and make your own money so that when the time comes, if you ever had to break away, you can financially step away whenever you choose to. And unfortunately, I know a lot of women who financially depend on the man that they're married to or the significant other that they're with. And it's not as easy for them to choose to walk away, and they end up stuck and staying in that situation longer than they would desire to stay because they cannot financially support themselves. So definitely always make sure you keep yourself in a financially stable way so that if you need to leave, you can leave if you choose to. Miss Sugar Sweet said, I don't think I will ever remarry. I'm too set in my ways now, and my tolerance level won't allow dealing with foolishness anymore. I applaud good marriages. I know, sis. I know my sister is the same way. She said she would never remarry. She is like one of the most happy single women that I have ever seen. She is, oh my goodness, she travels alone. She takes herself on dates all the time. And now she will date. She has gone on, she have friends that will set her up on blind dates or stuff. But she loves her single time. She's a happy single individual. And you can be happy and be single, sis. You don't have to be in a relationship. That's the good thing about it. It's your choice. I am blessed become Pam. Hey Diva. She said, great topic and excellent commentary. Thank you, sis. I really do appreciate you. Teresa says, yes, I am my sister's keeper. Yes, ma'am, Diva. We are. Alf Max says, thank you, Pink Table Topics, for being so open to share your testimony of choosing yourself over keeping a marriage that didn't serve you. You are so welcome, sis. Thank you for joining. And I think we need to do more of that. We can talk about it. When we talk about it, I feel like not only are we helping ourselves, it's a relief. It's a release, and we're helping other people who may be going through it. And maybe, this will help other people also understand why we ride for male so hard. It has absolutely nothing to do with the dynamics of a reality show, but it's more so about the reality of the life that we saw that she was going through, because she went through a real life situation. She really did go through a divorce from someone that she had been with since her college years and have 4 beautiful children with. But we have also watched her go through all of that, deal with all of that, but also she rebuilt herself 10 times over. She has an amazing resume. And these are things that she accomplished outside of the marriage. So, by all means, choose you. LaDawn says, I'm widowed and I'm scared to date. I get it, sis. Right now I tell people, especially my daughters, because I have 2 daughters. But my youngest just got married, but my oldest daughter, she and I have this conversation all the time, and we talk about the choosing pool and of men these days are it's not looking too good. There are good men out there. Let's not get that wrong. But again, it's just a different caliber of men these days. Like it's like the saying goes, they don't make them like they used to. But there are some good men out there. We just got to find them. So, but don't be scared, sis. And eventually, whoever God has for you, he will present himself to you for sure. Miss Sugar Sweet says, when my mom passed away 7 years, my parents were married for 51 years. I wanted a marriage like that, but I married the wrong man. I agree, and congratulations. 51 years is an amazing milestone. That's amazing. And you're right. We all look to have a long lasting marriage like that, because like I said in the beginning, none of us get married to divorce. We all have that goal in mind when we set out to get married. So we never have the mindset, oh, I'm just marrying you and we'll stay married for a few years and then get divorced. So that's never the goal. The goal is to try to stay and make it work. But if you can't, because one thing I learned is that it takes two to make it work. I can't be over here trying to fight to make it work when I'm doing it by myself. It can't be a one-sided thing. It does take both of us to try to make it work, right? Teresa said, although I have an amazing husband and have been married 30 years, congratulations, sis. If anything ever happened to him, I will never marry again. At least I'm not planning on it. You know what? I agree. I can attest to that because I feel like that too now with my husband. I don't think I would either after him, because one thing I can say is I have had the opportunity to find true love. I have had the opportunity to experience what real love means with my husband. And this is when I say experience real love, it's like he took my girls in as if they were his own. He did not make any difference in my children since day one, even before we got married. And he just treats me like a queen. And he's somebody that I look for. When I say he's my best friend, he's somebody that I look forward to coming home to every day. I look forward to seeing him get off work and walking through the door. Like we literally can sit and be at home all day over the weekend with each other and have us a movie day and just sit and really enjoy each other's company. And we laugh and we joke with each other. We have fun with each other. Like, and again, um he was a shining star for me coming out of a nasty divorce. He was the one that made my heart smile. And I'll say that over and over again. So when I say that he is my best friend, he is my best friend. And he makes me so happy. And I am so blessed that God sent me somebody like him compared to what I had, right? And when I say he's a good man, I know I'm saying it from the bottom of my heart. He is an amazing, amazing husband, and I love him. Teresa said, Reen Bass, can you imagine going through the dating process again? Woo, child. I know that's right. I don't think I'll ever be able to go through that dating process again. Miss Sugar Sweet, today is their anniversary. Oh, happy anniversary to your parents. That's an amazing, amazing milestone. Amazing milestone. That is a blessing. That is a blessing. So, oh, I did say we had to do the raffle. We have to do the raffle. Did you all enjoy the topic tonight? Make sure that you like the video. Make sure you share it. Share it with your friends and family. If there's anybody that you know that went through a divorce and may still feel a way about it, or someone who's currently in the midst of going through a divorce or possibly contemplating divorce, share it with them and let them know that it is a light at the end of the tunnel. You know, there are light days coming from the storm. So we won't be in a storm always, right? We always come out on the other side. And it's always, you know, God always have a way of removing people out of our lives that wasn't meant to be there. So it's a blessing when you can rebuild and move forward. And that's something to be proud of because it takes hard work and dedication and perseverance for sure. Teresa said, and the problem is we would be comparing every man to the one we have. You are so right. You are so right. We would definitely, and I don't think it's nobody to compare because I wouldn't even be looking. When I say the caliber, because I do have some single friends and I listen to their stories and the caliber of men that they run into, it just don't add up. It just don't add up. It really just don't add up. So I'm appreciative of mine. But again, I am an example and a living witness that, you know, you can rebuild after divorce. Um, and there is somebody for you. And I don't care who says that there isn't, there is somebody for you. People are so quick to say that nobody will want you or you won't be able to find anybody else. And again, just don't let you not having a man or haven't found a man yet define who you are, because having a man don't define who you are. You are who you are by yourself. Just having a man don't complete you. It should elevate who you already are. So that doesn't mean you're complete just because you have a body laying beside you at night. That doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean that you are better than your single friends because you have a man at home. Because we all know things could be going on behind closed doors. You're just not sharing it, right? Daughter of Israel said just slim pickings. Absolutely slim pickings, sis. Slim pickings. Nashonda says, yes, it was a great topic. Thank you, sis. I appreciate it. I appreciate. Are you all ready for the raffle? I did promise that we were going to have a raffle before we left. So we're going to get ready to do our raffle. And you all should know the answer. I have a question. And I'm going to ask the question, and the first person to type it in the comments, the first person to type it in the comment will win. Miss Sugar Sweet said, I'm sorry, my mom passed away 7 years ago, and today would have been 58 years of marriage. Oh my goodness, 58 years. Sorry to hear about your mom. 58 years of marriage. That's a blessing. That would have been a blessing for sure. Is your father still with you, Miss Sugar Sweet? So I have our raffle question. Are y'all ready? Are y'all ready? I have a raffle prize. I have a raffle prize. I told y'all if I get to 500, I was going to do a raffle. Now you just wait until 1K come. When I get to 1K, when I get to 1K, are y'all ready? Okay, so the question is, and again, we're going through, let me get my question. So again, once I ask the question, I'm going for the first person who gets the answer right. The first person who gets the answer right. And the question is, what year did Mel drop the video to her first single, Telltale Signs? What year did Mel drop the video to her first single, Telltale Signs? Go. I see y'all. I see y'all. Let me scroll up. Ooh, y'all are good. The answer is 2021. And our winner is the first person who got it right in the comments. Daughter of Israel. Congratulations, sis. Congratulations. Our winner is Daughter of Israel. The question was, what year did Mel drop the video to her first single, Telltale Signs? And it was 2021. It was actually September 13th, 2021. If you watched her interview with Black Enterprise, she actually mentioned it in that interview. So it was September 2021. Congratulations, sis. Daughter of Israel. Inbox me over on Instagram, Pink Table Topics on Instagram, and send me your address information so that I can gather it and put your prize in the mail. Because it's something that's coming in the mail. I have to box it and send it over to you. So send me your, it could be your P.O. box or whatever you choose. I don't dox people. So trust me, I'm only using your address to send your prize. I don't want it for any other reason. If you are not comfortable giving it to me, that's okay. Just inbox me and let me know, okay? Just inbox me. Congratulations. Congratulations. Yes, congratulations to Daughter of Israel. I have more. Just wait. Listen, I have a really nice raffle prize for her. I can't wait for her to see it. But when I get to 1K, can y'all please make sure y'all are sharing my channel with your friends and family to help me get to 1K? I'm trying to get to 1K so that Pink Table Topics can become monetized. I really appreciate you all for rocking with me. And for everybody that's been over here since day one, Teresa say, if you're not comfortable, just send it to me. I know, right, sis? She said, if you're not comfortable, just send it to her, sis. Just let her know. Let her know. But thank you so much. So yes, if you all can make sure you are sharing the channel with your friends and family. My next goal is to get to 1K. I'm trying to get to 1K before my birthday. My birthday is December 1st. So I'm trying to get to 1K before my birthday. And I know I have some amazing divas out there. So I know y'all gonna help me get to 1K before December 1st. It is September 17th. So I know I can depend on y'all to share the channel. If you are enjoying the content, send people over, bring people over with you for sure. I really will appreciate it. And shout out to my sis. She can't be here tonight. My sis Chit Chat. Happy birthday, sis. If you are listening in, happy birthday. She dropped her video of the resort she was at. It was beautiful, beautiful. I wish I could be there with her. Happy birthday again, sis. I hope that you are having fun. I hope you are enjoying yourself. And we missed you over here at Pink Table Topics tonight, but you have fun. Enjoy your vacation, and we'll see you when you get back. And that's it, ladies. That's our topic for tonight. We had a great discussion, rebuilding after divorce, rebuilding after divorce. And also, just a quick reminder to anybody, if you have a specific topic that you would like for us to talk about, feel free to either DM me over on Instagram or put it on my community wall and let me know. And we'll put it on the list to talk about for real. If you were in the bushes, please make sure you drop down and hit the like button for me. If you're not subscribed, make sure you do that. Turn your bell notifications on so that you'll be notified each and every time I drop a topic. I have so many topics on my list. So if you have one specifically that you would like us to talk about, please make sure you inbox it to me and I'll put it on the list for us to talk about. We want to make sure again that we are reaching a multitude of women and we're connecting and talking about things that we don't hear a lot being talked about. Yes, again, we love to talk about the reality TV. We like the mess, we like the drama, we like a little bit of that, but we also want to talk about these real life issues that we are experiencing on a day basis. So if you have any topics, let's talk about it. Let's get it out there. And invite your friends and family over here to this safe space that we have created so that we can talk about these things. And hopefully, there was something that I said that could encourage you and make you feel a little bit better about your situation so that you're not as weary going through a divorce and not feeling bad about having to have gotten a divorce. So make sure you are doing that as well. Let me make sure I covered everything. This was a great topic. I really appreciate it having each and every one of you here. Let me make sure I got everything. Let me make sure. And shout out to all of the content creators that if you were in the chat and you are a content creator, shout out to you. I really appreciate you being there. Everybody that was in the bushes, to those of you that will be replaying the video a little bit later, I appreciate you. Please just make sure you hit the like button on your way in. Feel free to leave a comment on the video. I appreciated you. I appreciate you. And Teresa says, just remember, there is no testimony without the test. Absolutely. You are 100% correct. There is no testimony without without the test. Nashonda says, thank you for your testimony. It will help someone. You're welcome, sis. I really hope it does. I really hope it does. And that's what it's all about. It's about sharing our experiences so that it can help the next person. Because where I'm from, I believe that each one teaches one. And if I go through something, I feel like me sharing my testimony would be able to help to encourage and motivate the next person. So that's what it's all about. And of course, before we leave, I have to leave our encouragement quote of the day is, you survived the marriage, so there's no doubt you will survive the divorce. Again, our ending quote is, you survived the marriage, so there's no doubt you'll survive the divorce. I really appreciate you all being here. That concludes this segment of Pink Table Topics, lady. Thank you for pulling up to the table. Thank you for rocking it out with me. We are 1 hour and 49 minutes in. Thank you, thank you, thank you for coming over to Pink Table Topics. Thank you for all of your support. You know, I love you, Teresa. Thank you, sis, for holding it down in the chat. I tried to mod you up, Teresa, but it didn't, for whatever reason, it didn't go through. So I'll try again to try to get it right for next Tuesday. Thank you, Juan D. Juan D says, good live tonight, Pink Table Topics. Thank you, sis. I really appreciate you for pulling up. I'm going to go up and say my good nights until next week, Pink Table Topics. I will see you all later here again, Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Have a good night. Good night, sis. Reen Bass. Reen says, have a good night, everyone. Have a good night, sis. Have a good night. D. Herford says, good night. Have a good night, sis. I appreciate you for pulling up to the table. Teresa, thank you, sis, for joining. I appreciate you. I am blessed pecan. Pam says, good night, Pink Diva and chat. Good night, sis. Thanks for joining. Daughter of Israel, good night, sis. Congratulations again. Don't forget to inbox me. Miss Sugar Sweet, good night, sis. Thanks for joining. Hey, sis. Lady Sweetness to you. Amazing topic and commentary. Thank you, sis. Thank you so much for pulling up. I appreciate you. Nashonda, thank you, sis, for pulling up. Have a good night. Have a good night. Have a good night, Brenda. Thank you for stopping by. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much. Jean Satisfield. See, I can't talk. Thank you for telling your story. Thank you, sis. You're welcome. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for pulling up. I appreciate you. Mama V, thank you, sis, for stopping by. I appreciate you. Good night, Bridget. Good night. Thanks for stopping by. My sis, Reen Bass, good night. I think I covered you, but good night again, sis. Brenda, good night. Good night. Thank you so much for joining us. Good night. Good night. Good night. Let me pot Bad Apple. Have a good night, sis. Thank you so much for pulling up to the table. I appreciate you. Have a good night. TNTG Mom. Good night, sis. Good night. Good night. Thank you so much for joining. Let me make sure LaDawn, my sis LaDawn was in the house. Good night, sis. Thanks for pulling up. I appreciate you. Good night. Good night. Af Mac, my sis Af Mac stopped by. Thank you, sis. Thank you for pulling up. I appreciate you. Be True was in the house. Good night, sis. Thank you so much for pulling up. Thank you for coming. See you again next Tuesday. Titi, thank you, sis, for pulling up. Thanks for joining. Cinnamon Squirrel was in the house. Good night, sis. Thank you so much for joining. I appreciate you. My sis Juan D was here. Have a good night, sis. Thanks for joining. Let me go up, I want to make sure I say good night to everybody. I love me some y'all. Thank y'all so much for rocking with me. I really do appreciate it. Babette Brooks was here. Have a great night, sis. Thank you so much for pulling up. She said, again, great, great content, sis. Thank you, sis. I really appreciate you. I really, really, really do. Thank you so much. Have a good night. Make sure I covered everybody. I don't want to leave anybody behind. If I missed you, I do apologize. I didn't do it on purpose. Good night, good night, good night, everybody. See you all later. Have a great night. Have a great night. Again, happy birthday to my sis Chit Chat. We love you, sis. Hope you're enjoying your birthday. Have a good night, ladies. Good night, good night tonight.